Welcome back. Ms. Nkanga, you are also the West Africa representative of the Committee for the Protection of Journalists. How is the sub-region doing on this particular issue?
Wow.
Outside Nigeria, obviously, because we've been talking about Nigeria.
You know, it's not good to seemingly malign anyone. But sometimes when things are bad, you just have to say it for what it is.
And things are bad. That's what you seem to be implying.
At least for one country in the sub-region that makes up the Economic Community of West African States, the 15 countries that make up this regional bloc, the Gambia is one country that is a poster child for the worst of the worst form of predatorship or predator of the...
Where does the Gambia fall in the index? You know, we talked earlier about the index of countries that are not doing too well regarding press freedoms, and Nigeria was number 12. Where is the Gambia in that index?
The index that Nigeria was number 12 as of 2014 was the Global Impunity Index, which deals specifically with journalists that have been killed. Right. So the Gambia doesn't have that. It was within a span frame of 10 years. So the Gambia doesn't come in within this index of killed. But in terms of...
So it can't be as bad as you're saying. If we've had journalists killed, like 5, and they haven't, they are doing better than we are, no?
No, they are not, because the level we're talking of a general atmosphere of press freedom and journalists operating, the climate in terms of... In the Gambia, you can't even... Just for insulting the picture of the president, you can get jailed. Just for wearing a t-shirt that says no to President Jammeh, you can disappear, you can get jailed. And I'm talking about things that have happened. So it's not something rhetoric. Now, why the Gambia is the worst is the laws have been amended so much that you don't even have a say. There's no opposition in the sense of you can open your mouth. Let me give you a perfect example. 2 journalists decided to, on August 2013, if I recall well, some people were on death row and the president decided to kill them. So there was an international outcry, Amnesty International and others, and it was true. So in the course of this, there was a protest that they shouldn't kill them, and when they got killed, so 2 journalists who also decided that, look, we want to be activists, went to the police to say, look, we want to protest a non-peaceful protest, and they were arrested and detained and tried.
They went to get permit.
Yeah.
Okay, so they didn't just start protesting.
No.
They went to get permission to protest, and then they were arrested. What's their fate as we speak?
Truthfully, the cases of in the Gambia on journalists, there are so many that I'll have to double check and confirm what is the actual state now. The ECOWAS court here in Abuja has ruled 3 times on 3 different matters: on the forced disappearance of one journalist, Chief Ebrima, on the torture of another journalist, Musa Sadikan, and on the murder of another journalist, Haidara. And the government refuses to abide by this action, by these rulings.
Now, when things like this happen, do you think other countries and other governments in the sub-region have a responsibility to help bring the president of Gambia or whoever is responsible for these things to book?
Totally. Because, you see, by virtue of the treaty that Nigeria signed with all the other 15 ECOWAS, and the revised treaty again, the governments have an obligation to abide by the rulings of the court. It's stated clearly. It's in print. But then again, who is going to enforce it? The court has ruled that several law cases, not just only on journalists now, but I'm referring specifically to this, that the governments of each of these countries should comply with the rulings or the judgments. They don't. Yet, you find out, you have to ask yourself, in individual countries, what is the record of governments abiding even by their own law courts? What's the level of enforcement of even court orders? We see it in Nigeria is not that terrific.
So you're saying essentially when they've not respected their own rules, they have no way of putting pressure on someone else to respect their own rules. Sounds really bad.
It is that bad. It's terrible. It's really atrocious. It's bad.
So what can the journalists in the Gambia do? All of them flee?
They are all fleeing. Just another one that had to fly away with her children. She was the chief press secretary of in the government of the president of Jammeh, Yahya Jammeh. And one, two, three things, they just took her and arrested her and said that she was feeding information to a foreign media in Senegal. And a trial started, and before she just had to flee.
Now, under those sort of circumstances, what can you do as the CPJ, or what are you doing?
And one thing is this, personally, I believe that one thing that can only happen in life is change. And if whoever feels or has felt to be above change, we have seen it everywhere. We saw it in Burkina Faso, we saw it across, even in Cote d'Ivoire, when Babodi wanted, change is inevitable. What I believe in is that as long as there is a vice, an attack, a human rights abuse, violation, fundamental rights that have been abused, organizations like CPJ, individuals that understand that such an abuse of one person, abuse on everyone, we will keep talking about it, and we'll still keep engaging people who have a responsibility to do the right thing, until eventually that whole facade, there must start to be a crack. If you keep throwing one pebble or you try putting water, there must be a crack. And as long as you're doing wrong, wrong cannot oversee or supersede right. So eventually, no matter how long it takes, I might not be able to achieve much in my time, but I would have been able to sow at least the encouragement to people who are on ground and others around me to see the virtue and value of what I'm doing, and they will take up the relay if I can't achieve it. But I'll give it my best. And the main place to engage now is the ECOWAS. They are the ones who have a responsibility to ensure that, look, whenever something that is of this proportion takes place, a judgment by the court, if you really want to have this one ECOWAS of people, not of states, by 2020 or otherwise, then the rule of law needs to prevail.
Do you think the behavior of West African leaders embolden sort of other African leaders to also, if you like, misbehave because one person does it and gets away with it?
Yes, I believe that. Just to add to that, I believe that strongly because, you see, as much as we are, everybody has contemporaries. You know who, on the end of the day, are your mates. And these heads of states are more or less mates that on that same level of authority. So what one does and gets away with emboldens me to feel that, I can even ask you, how did you do it safe? If we're that good to give our that bodies, and you might tell me, so I feel, yes, it does that. And that's one of the things that has brought about a lot of the revolution we're seeing across the world, Arab Spring and such, because people at the end of the day find out that there's always a limit to how much you can get away with. Something must give in eventually.
You've worked full-time as an investigative reporter, and I think to a certain extent you continue to sort of dabble in independent work. Some of your stories yourself will sort of put you in danger and cost you, a bit of anxiety, to say the least. What practical advice can you give journalists who are sort of having to do their work but may be concerned about the environment in which they're operating?
Wow, when you say one, there's several, but I will just single them down to some of the ones I feel are the most important. One, have a sort of one-touch panic button on their phones, whereby you feel you're in danger. That one-touch panic button can send a signal to your emergency contacts. And there are some very good ones.
So you should always have emergency contacts? You
should always have an emergency. You should always think of what could happen if I'm in a situation that is... Your instinct should always work with you. Your sense of smell, eyes, touch, everything should work with you because you never know what is happening. You are taking a shot, and I'm sure you might not see that maybe somebody is doing something bad, but that person has seen you, like, this journalist, they'll report I'm doing. You never know where the attack can come from. And that's what happens when you're on the field. You see a fire incident, you go near, you don't know whether there's going to be an explosion again. Every precaution should be taken. And importantly, have respect for yourself. Understand if somebody is in pain, somebody has lost a child. There are different situations that you have to know how to do. But when you respect yourself and say, look, I am a Nigerian, I am a journalist, yes, but I'm also a human being. What this person might be going through at this point in time, it might not be best to just take a camera in your face and say, ha, ha, ha. You must understand.
So be sensitive, be understanding,
empathy.
Doing your homework, trying to do responsible journalism. All of that helps, you think, in securing your person in the process of doing your job.
Yes, all of this work, all of this, and of course several other many things.
Thank you so much, Peter, for coming on the program.
Thank you, man.
You've been watching State Talk with me, Kadaria Ahmed. My guest was the West Africa representative of the Committee to Protect Journalists, Mr. Peter Nkanga. We discussed the rights journalists have to report the news without the fear of reprisal, as well as the responsibilities that journalists have to their society. Join me next week when I'll be in conversation with another special guest. Have a good evening.